which is Elon and Tucker Carlson. So Elon Musk went on Tucker Carlson's show recently, where they sat for like a whole almost 2 hours, I think, right? Or yeah, almost an hour 48 minutes, discussing various topics, mostly surrounding the election, but there's also a lot of other topics as well. So I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to watch at least part of the interview. I did watch the whole thing, and here is a kind of synopsis and time codes of what was talked about. So we don't have time today, unfortunately, to talk about each and every one of these topics. But what I wanted to focus on was perhaps the kind of beginning part, where Elon said he's first of all, he's all in on Donald Trump winning the election, right? So he's put his full support behind Donald Trump. And he says that if Trump loses, this is the last election. So this is one of the most controversial things, I would say, that Elon has said recently, where he made this claim that if Trump loses, then the Democrats are going to get in, and then they're going to keep on opening the borders and let all these illegal immigrants in, and then the illegal immigrants are going to convert it, like the swing states, into all like one party states. Basically, like imagine California, who's like has a 70% of people supporting the Democrats, and then the legislature is like over 70% Democrat. So then the Democrats can do whatever they want in California, right? So Elon's argument is that the Democrats want to do the same federally, or at least in the swing states, so that after this election, they're basically guaranteed to win every subsequent election, because they're going to convert these swing states into one-party states like California. So that was his argument. But then, a lot of other people, especially like left-leaning people, are saying that, he's just a right-wing conspiracy theorist, and he's like full base jumping into the right, and he's just making this up and fear-mongering. So I was kind of maybe hoping to get what you guys' opinions are on this particular argument that, the Democrats want to kind of let all these illegal immigrants in so that they can swing the election to their side and become a one-party kind of rule forever. And whether or not do you think that Elon is exaggerating when he says that this is the last election if Trump loses? And what do you think of his like active involvement in politics in general, right? Like a lot of people were arguing, especially some Tesla shareholders, not all, but some are saying that, Elon getting involved in politics is like bad for the stock, and he should just focus on being a CEO, but he's getting super involved in politics now, and a lot of people don't like that. So just kind of your comments on Elon's kind of political stances in general. And if you want to talk about other topics that were discussed in the interview, feel free to talk about it as well. I don't know how much of the interview you guys watched, but feel free to take it away.
Yeah, no, I guess I'll go first, and I'll be like more of a short and sweet kind of turn here. But I didn't have the opportunity to watch this interview specifically, but I did have a chance to watch the huge Trump rally, which I feel like we're going to be talking about a bit later, but I'll briefly touch on that. It seems like he was really adamant on, like endorsing Trump and believing he's like the side of democracy that America sort of deserves. And if it goes to quote unquote, I was raised in a middle class family side. It's just so jokes here. But what I'm trying to say is like he's saying that like if we go on the side of Kamala, then I guess it's like game over for America. And then to touch on what you were saying before about just letting all immigrants in, I could realistically see that possibly happening just because up here in Canada, I think that's already sort of happened before, and it could fall suit down below if things don't turn out the right way, I guess. But yeah, to touch on, I think I've noticed that Elon's been really involved in politics a lot more lately, and although I didn't really watch the interview in itself, I do. I guess I would respect his like conviction for like what he stands for and like his endorsement, and then he did put an emphasis on like people voting. Like, I do remember that too as well. But yeah, this is all I can speak on because I personally didn't watch the interview in itself. So that's just my input.
With regards to Elon's theory that this will be the last election because of the illegal immigrants coming into the states and shifting the shifting the swing states, I think that the argument has some validity in the short term because I think that there is a um, there may be a degree of people who vote for Biden Harris, kind of the Democrats more so as a result of them being illegal immigrants, because they view that is they're more on the same side. But I think that over time, I think people who are settled into a country tend to start, once they start kind of taking a more perspective of like it's their own country, I think that their perspectives will shift. They'll change. They may stay Democrat, but they may also go the other way at the later time, in which point that alignment may that kind of belief that Elon has that this will be the last election, I don't think it necessarily holds a ton of validity on that front, just because I don't think that the illegal immigrants are going to like stay illegal in the sense of like opinions forever.
That was a topic that Tucker brought up, right? Like, or I think actually Elon brought that up himself, where a lot of people were trying to counter what he was saying by saying that these like illegal immigrants from other countries. Well, first of all, like they don't stay illegal because the Biden Harris administration are like fast tracking applications for citizenship and for asylum and all that stuff. So like the plan is to eventually integrate them into like American society and give them citizenship. So that's number one, and I think that that's like a provable fact, right? Like there are a lot of programs that Biden and Harris have stated that they want to integrate these people that are already here, even if they came illegally. And the counter argument to what Elon was saying that he wanted to address with the counter argument was that, hey, like these illegal immigrants, they often come from, conservative countries, right? Whether it be in Africa or the Middle East or, places that people hold more conservative views compared to America or Western nations. So wouldn't they be more likely to vote Republican if they have personal conservative views, right? Whether it be like, religion or just like, on issues like abortion, gay marriage, all that stuff, right? But what Elon had to counter that was the people that are let in, their first priority is to get their family in as well. And they're going to vote for the party that has, more favorable immigration policies in their opinion, which right now is the Democrats, which would be more easily able to like let their extended family members in as well. So that's Elon's counter argument, is that's why the new voters, immigrants, whether it be illegal or legal, their first priority is to get their family in. So they're going to vote for the party that's more favorable to either giving illegal immigrants fast track citizenship application processes, or just letting people come legally as well. So yeah, just a little bit of a caveat to the point, but let me pass it back to you, Tristan.
So on that front, well, at some point you run out of family to come into the country, and at that point you're looking at trying to make your current life better, and having more people immigrating into a country than the country can handle is a way that a country gets overwhelmed. For example, with Canada, where we're overwhelmed and our cost of living has gone through a major crisis. So if I am a person who has immigrated to, well, I mean, think about it this way. I think most of us are immigrants or first gen, right? Like, you know, I think the fact that we're now concerned about the immigration crisis in Canada suggests to me that people in the future will also, you know, become more concerned about an immigration crisis in the future. It's well, they may be less concerned about it in the short term while they get their family here. At some point, their families here, right? There, you can't. You're going to run out of family to bring.
The counter to that is like India has what 1.4 billion people, and China has just over a billion, 1.3 billion people. So just those two countries, I bet if you go to India or go to China and you ask who would like to come to America and possibly be given citizenship, you're going to get a lot of, even if like 1 in 10 people from both countries want to immigrate. And I would imagine it's probably more than 1 in 10. If you actually did that study, that's hundreds of millions of people, right? So you're not going to run out of family anytime soon. Your country is going to collapse before you run out of people to like bring over.
But like, India and China, I don't think are the big culprits for illegal immigration into America, right? Like, yeah, I could see your argument if it was like, you know, primarily Indian and Chinese immigrants coming in illegally into the States, but it's primarily from like Mexico and like the Caribbean, right? And at some point, I think that yes, there are lots of people there. Yes, there are many, but I don't think that I think that at some point the majority of people who want to leave will have left. And I'm not saying that, you know, we should just open the border and be like, all right, everybody, come on in. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think that the argument of that the people won't flip from trying to bring their family into their new good life. They won't flip to securing their good life and change their voting preferences. And again, I'm not even saying necessarily that the Democrats wouldn't represent the party that they believe will secure their scenario. I'm just saying that I think a significant number of them will have their voting opinions change. And also just like on the India front, for example, I do feel like a lot of people who I've talked to who have immigrated to Canada and such from India, a lot of the time they're actually pretty keen to move back to India at some point. A lot of them were kind of like more in the headspace of making money here and then moving back to India. And I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who would rather move back to their home country as like, and be like more of a wealthy individual from having stayed in like a richer country where your salary is able to go so much further in your home country, but you prefer like the culture, etc., of their home country. So there's more of like I feel like there will at some point be some people who start re-immigrating back to their original country. But again, those aren't the illegal immigrants. I wouldn't say. Those are the legal ones.
I think there's two kind of separate situations between Canada and the US that we should differentiate, right? I think the US has more of an illegal immigration problem and Canada has more of a legal immigration problem, where both are problems, right? We're letting in too many people, but the issue in America is that the government says that you shouldn't come and it's illegal, and Kamala Harris, like as vice president, as the border czar, gets up on stage and says don't, and of course that doesn't work, because like why would they not come if they've traveled for thousands of miles and got to the border and the vice president said don't come, so I'm not gonna, I changed my mind, I'm going home. Like that's not gonna, like that's the US's current way of dealing with the problem, right? In Canada we have a separate issue where I think the government lets people come in legally, but we're letting too many people in. But we'll leave Canada for aside for a second, because I think like we're talking about Elon and America today. On what you said about you know, people getting settled and maybe transitioning to like voting more Republican or more right wing once they're settled down. I can see how that argument could make sense, but the issue is that I feel like this problem's getting so out of hand already, and it's not going to happen. That transition is not going to happen fast enough before your country's like services just collapse under the weight of letting millions and millions of people cross the border illegally, right? So that's number one. And number two is that what you said about, you know, people maybe immigrating or re-migrating back home once they've, you know, established and like made some money and stuff like that. Well, the issue is that, well, not an issue, but it's an issue depending on how you look at it. But one potential caveat to that is in countries like Canada and America, you have birthright citizenship, right? Meaning that even if you're here illegally, if your kid was born in said country, in this case, America, then they're automatically given American citizenship, even if the parents were here illegally. So once people get settled down, they have kids, then their kids are automatically American citizens. So they have roots in America now. So it's not like that easy to just remigrate back home, right? So I think those are a couple of important points that we need to point out. And as to what I think, since I'm already on this topic, I do think that maybe like Elon's words are a little bit sensationalist, right? Like it's if Trump loses, this is the last election. I don't. Maybe that's true, but I don't think it's particularly helpful to go like because it sounds radical and sounds sensationalist, even if you want to make the argument that it's not. But what I think he means, like if you actually listen to him explain, I do think there's a lot of validity in what he's saying, right? This border issue, which has gotten worse under the Biden administration, Biden and Harris, I do believe that this will be an existential threat. If not, it's already an existential threat to America. And what I think they're doing is exactly what Elon is saying, right? They've looked at the polls and they've looked at the demographics of how people vote, and you guys can look up the statistics if you don't believe me, but most new immigrants tend to vote left, right? So that is a fact. We can debate as to exactly what the reason is, but if Elon is right about them trying to also bring their family in, so they're voting left, or they're just more progressive in general, like I don't know, but for whatever reason that is the case. So given that, if America lets in a bunch of illegal immigrants on this score of like millions and millions per year, and then they also give out these programs that fast track citizenship application processes, then yeah, I think that what Elon is saying is not unreasonable, right? Like especially if they bust the people or they settle the illegal immigrants in the swing states, where it's all these like states that are very key on deciding who wins each election. Eventually, it is one potential pathway that the Democrats can take that I think would be rather effective in ensuring at least higher chances of them getting elected or reelected in future elections, right? I don't think that this is a conspiracy theory, and this sounds perfectly reasonable to me. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think, Sunil, since you've been silent this whole time. I see you like writing down notes, so you must have a lot to say.
I have a decent amount to say, but like I won't go too long. I do think he's being sensationalistic because elections are sensationalistic, and you have to do that to get clicks, and you have to do that to get attention. I don't think it's going to be the last election, even if I do think that Elon says valid things about bringing in mass immigration to swing states and like what happened in California in the 1980s, where I never swung back to the Republicans ever again, basically, with a few exceptions. And like there is validity to it in terms of like how it does change. It could change the country, but in terms of saying this is going to be the last election, no, he's being sensationalistic. What I find very humorous about this situation, about him saying this is going to be the last election, is that he's literally just Like the irony of it, which the Democrats can't see, is he's literally line for line using the sensationalistic lines the Democrats used against Trump over the last few years. It's going to be word for word. If Trump wins, this is going to be the last election. Trump is an existential threat to humanity in America. Elon is word for word saying the exact same thing and throwing it back to the Democrats, and they're just freaking out about it. Like they just can't handle that he's turning around the exact same word for word argument. So I just found that ironic and kind of funny and humorous if you see it from that angle. But yeah, I do see it as sensationalism. There's other things though, like the Democrats have. I used to watch a lot of shows like Bill Maher and a lot of like a lot of pro-Democrat like podcasts and stuff, and they have been very open about the fact, like back in when Obama was president and they wanted to legalize the DACA kids, they were very open about the fact that that they would benefit electorally by and especially in that case they were talking about Hispanic voters. So I don't think it's that much of a conspiracy theory. I do believe the Democrats do want illegal immigrants to get a green card and eventually become citizens because they know they're going to benefit electorally. And I don't think it's necessarily a conspiracy theory to say that what's happening in swing states, where the swing states are getting a lot of voters. So like this could really, really change the demographics of these states in 10 years from now. So, I mean, there's validity to what Elon's saying. It's sensationalistic. Elon has become much more sensationalistic since he's become political. It's just how things work in the world, unfortunately. But other commentary around Elon's like switch to Trump and his embracement of Trump, I just I think that like it's important to understand like where like I commented last episode about institutionalists and the Liberal Party in Canada being the institutional party. I feel the same way about the Democrats. And I just think we're in a weird place where no creators, nobody who's like achieving anything, they're sick and tired of dealing with the Democrats. They're sick and tired of dealing with institutions. They're sick and tired of the purity test the Democrats throw at them. They like the second you say something like is against Democrats, you're a racist or you're a sexist and all this stuff. And the sensationalism that got thrown at Elon over the last several years. Like it kind of started when Elon dared to open his mouth during the COVID lockdowns and attacked a California regulator. She was like the health inspector or something like that. And he attacked her. And that was kind of the beginning of it. But then it was the Twitter buyout. It was Democrats didn't support Twitter being like a free speech platform. There's been a lot of lawfare against Elon. The SEC is investigating his Twitter takeover, which I mean he bought it. I don't know what there is to investigate really. There's the Delaware Elon pay package where he essentially lost half his shares in that decision. And there's been a lot of commentary among the legal profession that it was purely lawfare. Like the Democrats are using their like pro-Democrat judges, the lower courts, to do legislation for them. They're doing a lot with Trump too, but they also the EV regulations and how NHTSA attacked Tesla. I can get into detail on that one, but that one's a little bit more technical. Tesla lost the broadband internet subsidy, even though they're the only like supplier that can supplier that can actually achieve that for them. So there's just been a lot of this like regulatory and legal attacks against Elon. There's been a huge onslaught of media sensationalism. So I think Elon kind of saying "F you." He's saying I've got influence, so I'm going to use it to hurt you guys now because all you guys do is you use your power against me. You're constantly trying to hurt my companies. You're constantly trying to hurt my products. You're constantly trying to give subsidies to my competitors. So I just think that he's kind of firing like a warning shot at the Democrats, where he's like, if you guys want to mess with me, I'll show you my influence. I'll show you that I can even like make Trump an attractive candidate. And I'll show you what happens when people mess with Elon. And I think that's kind of Elon's style. I just think he's like that. He doesn't like when people mess with him. He punches back, and he is punching back at the Democratic Party and the media who've been going crazy against Elon for like such a long time. But even people like talked to people who were like believed in a lot of the sensationalism, and now they're kind of like, Jesus Christ, like this is never ending with this guy. Like, and every time you fact check any media sensationalism on Elon, it's like always out of context. It's always ridiculous. So in the end, like, I think that Elon's just showing the people, I've got Twitter, I've got a media asset now. I can show you the same sensationalism, and I can literally use word for word the lines that the Democratic Party uses against Trump and use it against them and be more effective at it. So that's kind of just a few points I had about it. But yeah, it's I think I had a few more things to say, but I've kind of lost my train of thought. But that's basically the gist of it.
Actually, we can pick up that discussion at part 2 of this story, right? So expanding on what you just said about Elon, being attacked in the media and attacked by the Democratic Party, I do think that there's a lot of validity in that, and maybe if it was me, I would not respond with some of the words that Elon have chosen to respond with in the past. But then again, I am not Elon Musk.